I've always been more of a loner. A lot of my siblings split up, many sticking together. None of them stuck with me though, so I ventured off on my own. Eventually, I found a nice place in the woods. Sure, it wasn't in the thick of things, but it was safe. I'd be left alone here, away from the city and the violence. Before long, some neighbors appeared, all of them nice. Among them, she arrived. I remember seeing her for the first time, nearly a foot taller and much stronger. I thought for sure she'd be a hunter. Surprisingly, she was just a farmer, a vegetarian like me. We began to get closer and closer. Most nights we'd sit out at the den entrance and watch the forest life. Deer, skunks, squirrels, bears. They'd peacefully pass by, paying us no mind. The birds were a bit more fearful. They knew our neighbors would hunt them. One night, we saw a human. We'd never seen one before. I'd been told they were dangerous, yet, even so, I couldn't resist watching as my companion tried to pull me inside. I blinked my 8 brown eyes in curiosity, and suddenly the human noticed me. They froze and stared in horror before running off. Uncomfortably, I scurried back indoors myself. It didn't take long for the human incident to fade. Months passed, and before I knew it, we had children. Hundreds of adorable babies scurrying around the den and getting lost in the woods. For the first time in my life, I felt a sense of belonging, and before I knew it, it was gone. First, we found one of our children, a small one, crushed, guts spilling out, only 2 arms twitching lifelessly with one of his eyes rolling across the forest floor. My love was a peaceful creature. She never sought revenge, and the sight broke her. She started to get sick, eating less, visiting our children rarely. Eventually, she would only see me. I'd crawl to the back of our den and find her sleeping. One day, she didn't wake up. At this point, we'd lost 50 children, but she only knew of 25. 25 too many. Soon, after the fire started, I heard the pitiful wailing of my children and the other forest creatures, screaming as their homes, their bodies, and their souls were destroyed. I remember charging in to defend my daughter and her family, hundreds of them scurrying into the leaves as the human dumped chemicals. Spider flesh isn't a pleasant thing when it's burned, yet I stood and shielded them, watching the humans flee in terror of me. I don't know why they were scared. They were the ones hurting us. Eventually, the survivors fled further into the woods with the deer, skunks, squirrels, and bears. I stayed, sitting before the entrance of my den one last time, waiting for them to come. Once again, I am alone, but with this behavior, so are they. I take a peek from my spot in the broom closet. I crawl out to grab a couple more hot dogs from the rotisserie and head back into the closet, making sure to leave the door unlocked behind me. I grab the notebook I had found alongside an old revolver under the register and rip out all the pages already covered in transactions. I bite one of the bunless hot dogs and start writing down everything that's happened since this started 6 days ago. Page 1. My best guess is that the world ended, assuming this is localized. 6 days ago, 15th of March 2025, during my shift at GoMart, everyone inside stopped talking and shopping and started walking into the streets. I tried stopping a couple of the customers from leaving without paying, but one of the women I had tried to stop shoved me into the counter and broke my back. When they all made it outside, they stopped moving and looked up, wiggling their heads in circles. I noticed hundreds of people outside joining in and started recording on my phone. their heads lowered down on their shoulders until I couldn't see their necks anymore. When their wiggling stopped, furry pointed limbs emerged from under their chins. Page 2. I want to apologize to whoever reads this, but I missed whatever happened next while I crawled into the broom closet. I still have the video, so if you can manage to charge the phone I have hidden behind the bucket in the closet, you'll have access to the footage. Password is 1129. A couple hours later, after listening to confirm the store was empty, I went to check things out again. What I could already see from opening the door was a lot to take in. No one outside had their heads anymore, not any of the hundreds I saw. They remained upright and stood perfectly in place. I made a couple more videos of them doing so on my phone. Page 3. From the window I gained a good vantage of the sky, which the remaining videos consist of. While light shone through it, the mass structure of webs above the building created a ceiling that blocked the view of anything beyond it. This is where the missing heads were. Millions of them crawling across the sky. I think I can see cocoons or something up there too. From then on, the things I'm aware of are as follows. That the bodies don't react to people unless you try to move them and rarely switch locations themselves. That the heads only come down at night or when a body is touched. Do not throw things. That they're increasing. Page 4. I hope this small amount of information helps future historians, if they will exist. And I apologize if my bones disturb you. I'm planning on dying here. I tucked the notebook in a Ziploc bag. I crawled into the corner and put a gun in my mouth. I woke up suffocating. I couldn't see through the crushing debris, but pressed a feeble arm against the mass in front of my face and pushed as hard as I could. The load shifted and a rush of warm, rotting air flooded my lungs. I drank in with appreciation as I retched in a revulsion. My vision swam back through the dark. The dizzying, crackling pain in my legs roared like an electric fire. Broken. At least 2. I tried to remember, my memory a fractured collection of screams. My children. It took me hours to dig through the mass grave before I broke through to starlight. I slithered my mangled body through cracks and crevices before collapsing on top of the pile. The mass grave. I wept, my children's faces filling my brain, their shrieks of agony and fear before silence. I turned my face towards the house on top of the hill. Home. Yellow lights glowed over the sleek grass. He was still there, in my home. I laid a hand atop of my children's final resting place. I don't know if I'll make it back, but I love you all. I'll be with you soon. By the time I dragged myself to the house, the lights were off. What was once a source of warmth, a beacon of happiness, was now a void. It felt like amputation. It was my fault. I let him in. I'd welcomed him in. Even as he changed things, rearranging, knocking down walls, showing no appreciation for our neighborliness, for our kindness. I remember the shrieks, being woken by a whirlwind of violence. My blood hardened as one of my legs collapsed. Revenge. The door was locked, the front window too. I saw a final light above, calling out the night before it was extinguished. The bedroom, the water pipe, plastic and slick. I grabbed it, pulled myself up, useless legs dangling, hardening and seizing with every passing moment as my heart failed. No, not yet. I pulled, clambering up. The moon loomed, light illuminating my path as one of my arms slipped. I grabbed harder, sickeningly weightless, swung the arm back and continued to climb. Revenge. The window loomed, and my failing heart skipped a beat. It was cracked open. The cool air of the night meeting the warm air from the house and frosting the sill, frosting which almost stole my tenuous grip again. No. Safe. Not yet. I pulled myself through the crack, pushing it open with my back. There he was, turned over, blankets pulled up comfortably, bile rotted in my stomach. Sleeping. Fucker. I didn't know how much time I had left. I crawled to the bed, blood boiling as my vision failed again. This is for my family, you fuck. I crouched over his ear and laid my eggs directly into his brain.